Hey, welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Leticia Ringe, and this is the space to be for high vibe people looking to create a beautiful life and business. Let's do this. Welcome back to the podcast, my beautiful friends. I am Leticia Ringe, your host, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you all. Today, we're going to talk about a concept I have been exploring recently and calling deeper versus wider. We're going to talk about how this concept plays out in many different areas in your businesses and also in our life. And you're going to be able to use this concept to move forward and really focus your attention on going deeper rather than wider in your businesses to create the results that you desire and also the life experience that you desire. So first of all, I'm going to show you this concept in relation to an un-business related topic. I'm going to give you a life update and also explain this concept in relation to my most recent travel adventures. So for those of you who are new to me and don't know the whole story about what is going on in my life right now, there is an entire episode dedicated to this topic, which I will link in the show notes to this episode. But as a very quick summary, I am basically traveling nomadically at the moment within Australia, awaiting being able to go overseas once I've been vaccinated. That is just a choice that I'm making for myself, even though, yes, I understand the concerns around being vaccinated. Please don't be influenced by my decision. I'm just sharing this just to be completely transparent. So I know that I want to be overseas and I want to move around. I want to travel to a couple of different places. I'm going to go on holidays. I'm going to be in Mexico from July. And so until then, I've been traveling nomadically in Australia. Now, I set off earlier in the year and I ended up in Byron Bay for about a month, which was awesome. I loved it. And then I went to Noosa in Queensland, and then I went back to Sydney and spent a couple of months back home with my partner. And then I took off back to Byron Bay because I love it. And now I'm in Brisbane, and I've been in Brisbane for 2 and a bit weeks, and I'm going to be here for another week, and I probably will actually end up staying here for almost a month. Now, when people think of traveling nomadically, sometimes what we have in mind is someone who's like moving around quite often, who might be spending a few days or a week somewhere or even 2 weeks and then moving on. Now, that to me is is an example of someone who is taking a wider approach to travel, right? So it's someone who is like, I'm going to explore as many different places as possible. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to bounce around, and I'm going to get a wide selection of experience from a wide variety of places. Now, what I have observed for myself through all of the different years I've spent traveling, because while this is the first time I'm traveling without having a base for myself, I have been traveling for many different years, like since I was a teenager. But I've always had a base for myself. So what I have observed for myself is that actually when it comes to travel, I really prefer to be in a space for a longer period of time. So it could be that I arrive in a place and I get a feel for it and I decide, you know what, this is really like a place I only want to spend a little bit of time in. Maybe it's a week or 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be ready to move along. Then there are other places where I arrive and I think, hey, I really want to spend a good amount of time here. So I'm going to stay here for a few months or maybe even a couple of years rather than going to a million different places in that same time. And so this is an example of a deeper experience. And I think that this is beautiful as an analogy to really bring into our businesses. So the advantage of taking a deeper approach to my travels is that I really get to know a place. I really get to have a feel for a place. It gives me time to really understand the local culture, what is actually available in the neighborhood, the history. If it's in a place that is not English speaking, then maybe the language. And I can actually make connections in that place and develop a base for myself really in this place that is new to me. So I get to really deepen into the place itself and develop a deeper relationship. Now, the advantage of a wider approach is that you get to experience more places. Now, the reason I don't enjoy that approach is because what I discovered through doing the old, 6 weeks around Europe kind of thing, is that traveling from one place to the next, spending like 3 to 4 days or even a week, actually exhausted me. I was so tired. I didn't have enough time to really get a feel for the place. It was very overwhelming to my, in terms of the stimulation. I really always wanted more time to spend in the places, and I didn't really get to make connections or with the land or with the people because I was only there for a hot second. So it's definitely more of like a tourist-focused approach versus being someone who gets to know the locals and really gets to have that experience. And so my preference as a person, as I've realized, is actually to have these deeper experiences. In terms of my relationships, I would rather have fewer relationships and go deeper. I would rather have fewer conversations that are longer and deep and meaningful and really make me feel like I have learned something and really discovered something about the person I'm speaking to, rather than having lots of different acquaintances and even friends and talking about like small things and sort of walking away and not really knowing anything about each other, or at least what's going on and how you feel. So my preference is naturally to take a deeper approach. And I've been thinking about this in relation to our businesses, because I've noticed that there's this pattern coming up in a lot of different areas in business that also exemplifies the benefits, and I think the significant benefits that outweigh a wider approach in business too. So hear me out. So in relation to your offers in business, one of the biggest things, the first thing that I support every single client that I work with is focusing in on an offer. And so if you're someone who's been in business for a while, or even just a couple of months or many years, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter where you arrive. What tends to be the pattern is that these people have had a lot of different offers that they've been trying. They've been going from one offer to the next, or they have a whole suite of offers on the table right now. And so they feel really like they're butting their head against the brick wall because none of it's working, or it's not working at the level that they want. And what's happening here is that these people are taking a wide approach to their offers rather than a deeper approach. And what happens is it is overwhelming for our brain because each offer is almost like its own business. So every single offer, you have to learn how to sell it, how to market it, how to deliver it, how to continue to refine the process. And that is a journey which only you can have when you allow yourself to deepen into that process. What people instead do is they try something once or a couple of times and it doesn't create the results that they want. So they take a wider approach. And what they do is they say, I'm going to change my offer, or I'm going to try a new offer altogether, or I'm going to have a bunch of different offers for people. And then what happens is, as a business owner, you never get to go deep with any of your offers. Instead, you go wide. And while there's this wide selection for people, it means that your client and community are in decision fatigue, trying to figure out what your offer actually is and which one is right for them. And then you, as the person delivering the offer, is overwhelmed because you're trying to figure out how to sell all of these new offers and how to deliver them. This is true even when you have one offer, but you keep changing that offer. I notice this with so many people that I work with, we will start working on an offer, and then when it hasn't had results in the time that the person's mind wanted, what they'll do, what their mind will convince them to do, is to change the offer. Now, sometimes the offer itself does need to be tweaked. It's not this like black and white situation, but more times than not, we just have to get better at marketing and selling the offer, and then also in our delivery of the offer. But when we take a wide approach, we keep shifting our focus to the next offer, hoping that this is going to be the one that saves the day, that this will be the one that where we land on the magic and the results that we want, rather than recognizing that the reason we're having those issues is because we're not focusing on the one thing. Everything in our business, every process, every offer, every piece of messaging, every piece of content we create, it all takes time to improve. Like if you listen to my podcast, for instance, this is something I've now been doing since 2018. If you listen to the first season of the podcast, you will notice how I've been able to talk and speak more naturally on this, how my concepts have developed and I've gotten better at the process. But all of this has only happened because I allowed myself to focus on the podcast and keep going, rather than telling myself, well, this isn't good enough, this isn't creating the results you desire. I've just kept going. And because of that, I have the beautiful benefit of seeing my improvement, even if it's just in the artwork, right? There are so many pieces that get to just develop and develop and develop. And it's the same with our offers. When you're switching your focus, you aren't going to give yourself the space and time to get really good at selling and delivering that offer. And it's so interesting because it seems to be the opposite of what we should do. It's like, hey, well, if this isn't working quick enough, let's just give ourselves another stream of income almost to give ourselves a bigger chance. But you have to look at the reason why we do that, the intention, what's driving that action. Because it's never the action you take that's going to create the results for you. It's what you're thinking that leads you to taking those actions. And in most cases, the reason that we end up diverting our focus and opening up a new offer or income stream too quickly is because we do not trust ourselves and the path that we are shifting our attention from. So we don't trust the offer that it's going to be good enough, that it's going to work out, that we're going to work out. And this is exactly what we also do in relation to our process for sales and marketing. So you might have a process that you're trying, and then you've tried it once, or maybe you've signed up to work with a coach, someone like me, or to work in a course or some other program, and you've tried the process that you've been taught, but you haven't seen results in either the time of the container or within whatever time limit your mind put on yourself. So for instance, many times I'll have clients who come to me and they say, I want to make 10,000 months in the next 6 months, or I want to have a 100K business in the next 12 months. And while that is totally possible for people to have, the more important question to be asking yourself is, what are you going to make that mean if you don't create that result? So for me, it took me years before I created a 6-figure business. I never made that mean that I would not be able to create a 6-figure business. I just kept going. And then very quickly, within the span of 12 months, not only did I have my 6-figure business, then I was able to really elevate every single launch I had, so that then within 6 months, I'd actually made 6 figures, right? So it just kept compounding quicker and quicker and quicker. And it was because I kept focusing on the same process. However, while all of this was happening, I really wasn't aware that this was what was happening. So like many of you, I kept leaning towards, let's find a new process. Let's learn something new from a new person. Let's try a new strategy. And I was implementing the same process, but then adding all of these bells and whistles to that same process.
What I realized as I started to really evaluate my results and my process and what was actually working for my business and what wasn't, I realized that the same process I used to have my first $1,000 launch was the same process that ended up taking me to $10,000 launches, then to $25,000 launches, then to 50,000 launches, and then to 90,000 launches, which is the amount of my most recent big launch that I've done. So I use the same process to create those results. And it was because I allowed myself to deepen into the process and get better and better and better and better at it. Now, thankfully, because of this beautiful experience that I've had, where I allowed myself to deepen into the process, and on top of that, I also tried new things, what that did is, instead of that process probably happening a little bit quicker and maybe me getting even better at the process sooner, what it did by looking for new information and processes and adding that to the process, all that did was actually slow me down. It gave me distractions. It led to me stopping and starting. So I've noticed this in my business journey. There's a lot of stopping and starting. And I explain this story to myself in my mind. I explain it as, well, it's because I like to have a lot of action and then retreat and have a lot of rest. And that might be part of it, but some of it is also because I wasn't trusting myself. I wasn't trusting that the process I already had was truly enough. Instead, I was thinking, all right, I'll keep doing this process because I am seeing some results. And I'm going to start learning other processes just to be sure, because I'm not really sure that it is working. Yeah. So can you see that then the energy from which I made that decision to invest in other programs and courses came from a place of not believing in myself in that moment? So it's never about the actual action we take. There's no trouble with getting support or signing up for a course or trying another new inspired idea. But when the real motivation and energy behind it is because we just don't trust ourselves, we are missing that the real reason anything works in our business is because of self-trust. I was talking to my Mistress Mind clients about what to do once the Mistress Mind is finished, and I boiled it down to two things. Now that they have the process, now that they have their strategy, their unique strategy, there are only two things to work on, and it's what will take you to 6 figures, to multiple 6 figures, to 7 figures. And it is these two things. Number one, continue working on your mindset, which also includes your energy. And number two, continue to serve and make offers to your community. The actual action of business is really simple, but the reason that we have very different results is because it's because of our mindset. It's because of what's going on in our mind. Now, I want to be really careful here to just explain that even when you have self-doubt and you have that little negative mind saying like, you're not good enough and you're not doing it right, and it's doubting you, you can still create results. For example, even though my mind has continually doubted me throughout the process of my business, I've still been able to create the incredible business that I have today. And I will still be able to create the even better business that I will continue to create as I move forward. So rather than seeing that believing that you've got to change yourself or something's wrong with you, what you want to do is say, hey, I recognize that I'm doubting myself, and this is where this decision and step forward is coming from. And that's okay. It's okay that I'm doubting myself, and I'm going to make a decision here that is coming from a place of self-trust instead. So in my opinion, when we trust ourselves in our process, what we do is we take a deeper approach rather than that wider approach, because we're not trying to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. We know that it's not about throwing the right thing that sticks. It's about being the person that knows that as the person throwing it, it is going to stick, right? It's like that visualization, energy, mindset piece. It's like with famous sports people who are really amazing at their craft. They talk about like really visualizing themselves going through whatever sport it is and flowing through it and just creating this beautiful experience for themselves, and then that is what they actually live. This is what we're doing in our business too. So the actions never matter. It doesn't matter about the how, which is why just focus on one process. It doesn't matter about the offer. So just focus on one offer. You don't have to land on the perfect one to find the one. Now, another way that I've realized this shows up is in the people that we choose to work with. So a lot of you I know are probably like me, and rather than staying with one person to support me in my business or in my mindset work or name any other area of your life, you might bounce around from one course or one coach to the other, rather than allowing yourself to have the benefit and experience of having a long-term relationship with the same person. Now, the reason that this is a problem is because the reason we bounce around, the reason we take new courses is because it's usually coming from an energy of, I just need to learn the right thing, and then everything will be okay. I just need to learn the right process, or I just need to find the one, and then everything will be okay. What we don't realize when we take this wider approach is that part of the process of success is simply committing to the process itself, is simply sticking to the process and telling yourself that this is the process for you. And the reason you want to do that is because rather than wasting all of your creative and decisive energy on making new decisions all the time about, will it be this fix? Will it be that? Like, what should I do here? Instead of wasting your energy on all of that, instead, you just tell yourself this is going to be what works. This is going to be the process. And so it is. So when it comes to the people that you choose to work with, what I want to encourage you all is to take a deeper approach. Choose people that you can work with on a long-term basis. Choose the process that you are in or are about to be in and decide that this is the process for you and that you are going to continue to do the work and give yourself time and space to see those results. If you ever are in a program and you're not seeing the results that your mind wanted within the time frame that you hope to have it, do you trust yourself enough to know that the results are coming? All you need to do is continue to keep going, to keep working on the mindset and keep showing up. That is it. Now, the reason that that is difficult is because we've got a mind. And this is why having long-term support is so helpful. This is why coaching is so helpful. Coaching is an incredible industry and modality. It helps you to see your own mind so that you can see where your mind is getting in the way of what you desire. Recently, I had a session with one of my coaches and we were working on my mindset, and within 15 minutes, I had uncovered a mindset limitation that is keeping me back from even allowing myself to have a 7-figure business. Now, I know I talk a lot about the money, but what I'm actually speaking of when I talk about the money is allowing myself to hold a business at that level, allowing myself to experience and create a business at that level, to serve the amount of people I need to serve to create a business at that level. And so I was not even allowing myself to have that experience because my mind did not think that I had a good enough justification for it. I would not have been able to pick that up on my own if it weren't for the coaching container that I have and that I continue to give myself. Another one that we picked up recently is I really was focusing on that I had the mindset belief that we all have, which is that I'm not good enough. And so I kept thinking, well, as long as I have this thought, then I just can't be a good enough coach or a good enough business owner or a good enough person. And I was really shaming myself for having that belief still there. And what we uncovered through the course of coaching is that actually, while that thought is there, I also have another thought that's there, which is that I am good enough. And that was the thought from which I was actually creating all of these other incredible things from. And so rather than making me choose and decide I need one or the other, I was able to see that, hey, I can have a belief here that I'm not good enough. And I can have a belief here that I am good enough, and I can choose to focus and feed the one that about me being good enough, because this is the one that's giving me the experience that I want and also allowing me to show up and serve in the highest possible way. So allowing myself to have coaching support throughout my entire business and allowing myself to follow that one process and to choose one person to work with and to continue our relationship is what is actually allowing me greater ease and higher service, leadership, and results in my business. And it's all because I've done the opposite of what my mind has told me I should do, and I have focused on the depth rather than the width. And so this is something I wanted to invite all of you to explore too. Now, one final example of this concept is in relation to our life. So we all know when we have a million different priorities in our life, when there's a million different things that we want to spend our attention on, we usually end up quitting and not doing any of them. And this is why prioritizing is so important. This is why intentional living is life-changing. This is why I love intentional living so much. Before I got into this line of work, I really couldn't identify what I really wanted out of life and what lit me up and what brought me pleasure and what that intentional life could look like, because there are just so many options. I was so overwhelmed. So that led me to doing nothing, to just feel like the years were flying by and I hadn't really made a life that I actually wanted. And so when I started to actually prioritize, well, what do I actually want to work on here? What do I want to give my time and attention to? What do I want the experience to feel like? And I started to narrow down on what my priorities are and what that intentional living looks like to me. I was able to narrow my focus and then create true depth with each of those things that I wanted to focus on. That is what allowed me to start my business. And it really, truly is what has allowed me success at every single level. It's never been about the width. It's been about the focus. Now, one final note on this is, please do not think that what I'm saying here is that you need to have a really narrow niche. No, that is not true. What it means is meet yourself where you're at right now with the information you have and decide that with that information that this is your focus for an offer and a community. We really overcomplicate this process. The way that I teach business, I do not teach ideal client exercises. I teach an incredibly simple way of identifying who it is you're actually speaking to and what you're serving them with. And the answer does not matter. The answer doesn't matter. You don't have to land on the right one because there is no right one. There is just the one that you're focusing on. And when you decide that this is the one and you commit to it and you tell yourself, I'm ready and I'm enough and that this is good enough, and you commit and give it the time and space to see the results in the amount of time that it's meant to happen on your journey, then my beautiful friend, your experience of your life and your business is going to be so much richer. It's going to be so much more easeful and pleasurable, and you are going to experience even better results. So decide that the person that you choose to work with on your business is the person for you. Decide that the program you choose to learn, whatever process for your business, decide that that is the right one for you. Of course, you tweak it and you make it your own, but decide that this is your process and make decisions so that you can focus and stop yourself being in this decision fatigue, which just leaves you in endless looping, trying to find the one because you're not backing and trusting yourself. You have all got this, and I'm so excited to see how when you focus your attention and go for depths, that you really have higher and better results. Now, my beautiful friends, I want to hear from you. Did this episode speak to you? What resonated for you? And how are you going to start focusing in your business too? I look forward to hearing from you all. And as a final reminder, I'm so excited to let you all know that I will be opening up some new places into our Holistic Business Mistress Mind and Create Your Beautiful Biz to all work together in a mastermind experience. Honestly, this program is just incredible. So if you're interested in working with me when that opens, which will be very soon, please make sure you've got your name on the relevant waitlist. So if you're starting a business, pop your name on the Create Your Beautiful Biz waitlist at leticiaringe.com/CYBB. And if you're growing a business, pop your name on the waitlist for the Holistic Business Mistress Mind at leticiaringe.com/Mistress Mind. I'll be getting in touch with you all individually to talk about these containers, as we will be doing things a little bit differently as we move forward. And I'm so excited to bring some new people into these really incredible spaces. Okay, my beautiful friends, I am going to enjoy deepening into my beautiful process and time in Brisbane, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Bye.
Hey, if you're ready to create your very own purpose-driven business too, I invite you to check out my online program, Create Your Beautiful Biz. You'll learn how to create a business that allows you to make your difference and thrive. Just head over to www.leticiaringe.com/CYBB. Let's make creating a business beautiful. I'll see you there.